Looking back on our first house sit gives me a good opportunity to talk about one of my personal favorite topics, chicken behaviors. I know a lot of you are going to think, oh, they're just chickens, they're not really that interesting. But like wolf packs or lion prides, chicken flocks actually have a lot of really complex individual and flock behaviors. They have daily routines, they have a complicated bedtime routine, they have a hierarchy, a very strict pecking order, and flocks with and without roosters have different behaviors. This is particularly true when it comes to egg laying and nesting boxes, which is something that most chickens do almost every day. As an example here, this is Patricia. She was one of the Jersey Giants that we had on our homestead in New Orleans. And this is her moving eggs into one nest. She had gone broody, which means that she wanted to hatch some of her eggs or anyone's eggs from the flock into babies. And a broody hen will often be seen moving all the eggs together into one big clutch so she can then sit on them for a month and then hatch a bunch of baby chicks. Now, Patricia did not actually get to hatch any eggs because we didn't have a rooster besides the wild roosters that were around in the neighborhood, but they never actually came into the chicken yard. So there was no way that Patricia could hatch eggs, but she didn't realize that. And while she was broody, we happened to be getting chicks, so I snuck two little one-day-old chicks underneath her, and she thought that she had miraculously hatched them. And this just looks like a picture of two eggs in a slightly wet nest, but this was actually only about 5 minutes after we got home from evacuating for Hurricane Ida. We took all of our chickens to our friend's garage in the North Shore overnight while Hurricane Ida came and did its work in our backyard. And the two leghorns, which were our only two white egg layers at the time, held their eggs. There was no nests. They lay an egg almost every single day, but since we had transported them to the North Shore, and this is them in our friend's garage, there was no comfortable place for them to nest. Chickens have a lot of very particular requirements about what they're looking for before they can relax enough to lay their daily egg. So the two leghorns held their eggs for about 36 hours, and as soon as we got home, they ran across the yard, went straight to their nest, and those were the two eggs in that wet nest. And this is a photo of little Julieta, who has just blossomed from a teenager to a egg-laying hen. And all the other teenagers are around her just so curious about what she's doing in the nest. No one else had started laying eggs yet, and so every time little Julieta went into the nest to lay an egg, she was just mobbed by all the other soon-to-be young hens. Here we see them taking a close look, and all she wants is some privacy in the nest. As a refresher, this is the ranch that we stayed on for 2 weeks. If you watched our previous video, you know that it was an atypical house sit in that it was more of a work exchange. We got to stay on this beautiful ranch outside of the small town Aculco in the state of Mexico for 2 weeks in exchange for an idea exchange with the ranchers and also doing some work on their chicken coop. So these are the before photos. This is their flock of 7 leghorns and 1 naked neck rooster. And over the 2 weeks that we stayed there, we did a lot of work on their coop, and you can see the previous videos for all the information about that. These were their previous nesting boxes. You can see the 3 jugs turned into boxes. One of the hens would use them for napping, but not for egg laying. There was no egg laying going on in their nesting boxes. And the 2 boxes stacked next to them are just obviously unusable. So instead, this flock of hens laid all over the yard. There was a tarp they chose to lay in. There was a different room in the coop that they chose to lay in the corner. And particularly, the habit that I worked really hard to help them break was two of the hens were choosing to lay in the doghouse, and that came with some trouble. This was before we'd moved their nesting boxes, and I was just documenting these two hens' behavior of laying in the corner. This is a different room of their chicken coop. So obviously that's a habit that we want to break. Here we see those same two ladies. One of them has just laid her egg. After a chicken lays their egg, part of the ritual is that they sing what's called an egg song to announce their return to the flock. And this flock had a rooster, so every time she sang her egg song, he would respond back to let her know where the rest of the flock is. So during the remodel of their coop, we knew that we had to make their new nesting box area comfortable for them so they would choose to lay in the new nesting boxes so it wouldn't be an Easter egg hunt every morning. So here we are in the middle of the remodel. We pulled everything out, and this is while we were sanitizing it. Here we've cleaned them off, and we're working on making them more comfortable. The wooden boxes here didn't actually have enough headroom for the hens to basically stand upright and help use gravity when they lay their eggs. So we did actually do some modification to the wooden ones, which you can see I'd already started on the right one there by experimenting by taking off the cover so they had enough room to stand up. And we made them really comfortable with some soft fluffy bedding. And much like the little kitty there, the chickens, the majority of them chose that they preferred to lay in the soft leaf bedding. So before we had our final revision to the new nesting box area, we actually made 3 little nests that were down right about where the cat is, over on these rocks, and another one on the other side. And those actually became the hens' favorite nests. They must have been the most comfortable. You can start training a hen where to lay eggs simply by putting an egg where you would like her to lay. Hens, being part of a flock, if they see that someone else has laid an egg here, they understand that that hen must have been comfortable enough to lay an egg there, and therefore maybe she should lay her egg there too. So we started out by just putting an egg in every new nest that we made, and it actually helped. As I mentioned, 5 of the 7 hens immediately started laying in the new nesting box area. However, we still had 2 who insisted on laying in the doghouse. And the trouble with them laying in the doghouse is obvious, but inside this doghouse is a little dog bed, and they would lay in the corner. The dog would come and lay on the bed, and it would break the eggs. So you can tell the 2 hens who continued to lay their eggs in the doghouse because they had broken egg yolk on their back wing feathers from sitting in the eggs that were accidentally broken by the dog laying in his bed. So here they are. I've just put the egg barricades inside the doghouse, which consists of 2 pieces of wood, so they couldn't go lay eggs in the corners. And they are noisily filing their complaint and insisting that the logs be removed so they can lay their eggs in the doghouse. So back in the chicken coop, this is our new nesting box area, and the hen that you see in the corner there is our trendsetter. So she's the first one who decided to lay an egg, and she chose this little corner, laying on her eggs on the nice fluffy leaves. And her laying back there actually attracted the attention of the other hens. They like to lay in the same spaces as I mentioned. So the other hens come up and are checking out her spot and decide that that looks like maybe it's going to be their new favorite spot too. There she is. You can see she's laid her egg. And actually this hen in this particular flock that we were house sitting, she was the friendliest one. She was the only one that I got to eat out of my hands during the 2 weeks we were there. And I think based on their behavior, she was actually the flock leader. So it makes perfect sense why she was the first one to choose the new nesting box area, lay her egg, and then everyone followed suit except our two doghouse layers. Here we have another one of their new favorite spots. A few of them did choose to use the new nests, and again, we were repurposing the materials that the rancher already had in place. But these hens mostly seem to prefer the leaves, although two of them preferred the white boxes made out of the jugs. Which brings us to our doghouse layers. How do you get a hen to choose to lay her eggs somewhere else? It's complicated, and it just takes a lot of work redirecting. After we've built comfortable new nests that most of the other hens have decided are suitable for egg laying, we were left with the two who wanted to lay in the doghouse. And I started out just by, every time they'd go up the stairs to go to the doghouse, I would redirect them back down the stairs to the chicken coop. If they made it in the doghouse, I would just peek my head in and scoop them out and remind them that those logs are there. They can't lay an egg on top of a log. They would just be frustrated in the doghouse, thinking, I gotta lay my eggs soon. So I'd redirect them back down to the chicken coop. And you can see this look on her face is the look of a hen who has to lay an egg. So fortunately, when you're working with a hen and trying to redirect her behavior, time is on your side because eventually she will have to lay an egg. And at that point, she's not going to be quite as choosy about where she lays it. So here we have her looking at all of her new nesting box options. She seems to be gravitating towards this leafy nest in the middle. She spent this morning, it was probably 2 hours of redirecting her back from the doghouse down to the coop. She'd come look at this nest, look back up to the doghouse. Can I get out of here? I really gotta lay an egg. She checks out each one of the nests. Takes a little nap. Eventually, she chose that nest. And after plenty of time sifting the leaves around and getting everything just right, she laid her egg there. And when you're working with chicken behaviors, one of the great things is that they are creatures of habit. So now that she's laid an egg there, there was already one egg in the nest, so there's 2 eggs there now. Tomorrow, it's going to be a whole lot easier to redirect her back down here. And in fact, if she's laid an egg there once, everyone else is laying in this area. It might only take a few days of redirecting for her to break that habit. And here she is taking a well-deserved nap in the sun. And here we have our second doghouse layer. And this was where she successfully chose to lay an egg. She chose the white jug nesting boxes. If you've never seen a hen lay an egg before, you're in for a treat. So this is the second doghouse layer, chose this nest, and I'd been redirecting her back to the coop all morning. So by this point, she had to lay that egg. And you can see how they stand fairly vertically. There it goes. They look down to make sure it's there. Yep, laid an egg. This video is the 2 doghouse layers. So the one in the jug nest is the one who just laid her egg. The one on the right, you can see what I mean by having the sitting in the broken egg yolk from the doghouse. This is what that mess looks like. But at this point, we were 3 days into the training, and they were choosing the nests on their own at this time. And of course, after every successful egg is laid, it's followed by an egg song. And just for fun, here's a video of the whole flock in their coop, happily enjoying their new setup. And up front here we have our head hen, and she is not singing an egg song, but giving some sort of special announcement. Thanks for watching this thrilling installment about chicken behaviors. Again, it was just a really great opportunity to be able to stay on this ranch for 2 weeks in exchange for the work with the chickens and their coop. It really made us think a lot about repurposing coops, coop design, and using available materials that this rancher had. So that was great, but also it was, for me, missing my chickens. It was just really nice to be able to walk away knowing that, you know, maybe those chickens aren't going to never try to lay in the doghouse again, but over the course of a short period of time for a particularly stubborn animal like a chicken, it felt good to be able to know that we'd done a little bit to at least work towards that for the flock. So thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.